Welcome to Ask the Expert, a web series that offers you practical information on finance and business. I am your host, Nicole Pride. Today, you're in for a treat. Not only do we have one expert, but we have four amazing experts with us for this special episode. We are around the virtual table as we discuss equal pay, or the lack thereof, for Black women. Now, according to a report by the National Women's Law Center, among full-time year-round workers, Black women typically make 67 cents on the dollar when compared to white non-Hispanic men. There's also reports for that being lower than 67 cents. Some reports even say 64 cents on the dollar. This wage gap costs Black women. In general, Black women are making $2,000 per month or losing $2,000 per month. They're losing more than $22,000 per year. And over a 4-year career span, we're talking about they're losing up to $900,000. And the stats are dismal. Even the pay gap increases with more education that they have. So to discuss this issue with us today are brilliant and savvy women who bring their unique perspectives and professional experiences to the discussion today. We have Kelly Saunders, the owner of Kelly Sells Cars, which is an automotive consulting firm. We have Bobbi Booker, who is the managing editor at WHYY, a media company based in Philly, known for their radio station. Bobbi has shed light on important issues in our community, from being a radio host to a reporter and producer. And we also have Mekey Gabriel with us, founder and president of Wealth Financial Flowers, where she provides clients with financial strategies, bringing her more than 25 years of experience in wealth management. Ladies, thank you so much for being here today. So I wonder if many Black women, as they are moving up the professional ladder, and their salaries are becoming more lucrative, do they even realize that this is a major issue, that this disparity exists, and the consequences for that? So I would say, for the women who are listening today, where should they start? And maybe Mekey, if you want to jump in the conversation.
Sure. So to answer that question, you're absolutely right. They are not aware of any disparities. I would honestly say once someone gets into six-figure territory, because you're likely not to have, number one, anyone else in your family at that level, right? A lot of times these are first-gen people that are making this amount of money. Probably when you get into over 250 and above, right, it's really rare for, just everyone to be a C-suite level executive in your family. So not only are they not aware of it, right, they're not aware of sometimes just how much that gap can be. I'm absolutely a fan of now the Pay Transparency Act and laws, which I think is great, because I encourage people to look at what that position is offering, not only in your own state, but if there's something similar. You can look at apps like Glassdoor. I love Glassdoor. Everyone seems to go on there and kind of list their salary. And what it does is give you a range. And also, I tell people to just go on LinkedIn and look for similar positions at other companies. Now, when they list them, at least it can give you an idea of the benefits, if at least the salary package does not match, to give you some idea, especially based on your experience, what you should be getting offered, and also what your parameters of pay with the position.
Yeah, that's excellent. Right. Women should come prepared, knowing what that range is so that they know where they fit within the salary range. And also, I just want to pause right now to welcome Donna Brown Harnett, Esquire, to the conversation. Donna has had a successful career providing legal counsel in different organizations, and particularly in government agencies like the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and the USDA. She is CEO of Always Resourceful, LLC, where she helps entrepreneurs and influencers and creatives build profitable businesses. Welcome to the conversation, Donna.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Nicole.
Yes. So as you just heard, we're talking about how can women prepare and be equipped to have these conversations about salary and negotiate and navigate the conversations about salaries. Do you have any perspective on that you want to share?
Yes. So I came in with Mekey giving some fantastic examples of the burden is on us to do our due diligence. That means we do have computers today. We can look at Glassdoor. We can Google it, so to speak. When I first started it in the 80s in banking, we didn't have computers. We were doing everything manually. And so I didn't have anyone who looked like me, who would confide in me. And I did, unlike what Mekey was saying, my family, I guess, is a little bit unusual in that the majority of the family has at least an undergraduate degree, and many have secondary or doctorate degrees. And my mom had 8 brothers and sisters, and my dad had 9. And so from that, I think I came in just a little bit more fortunate because they would encourage me to value myself and know my worth. So I didn't know exactly the figures, but I could kind of speculate. But today, the burden is 100% on you. And if you don't know, get a mentor.
Mentor, yes, that's great. So Kelly, if we know that women are making roughly 33% less than their white male counterparts, should we already go into the negotiating table asking for more than what they offer for that gap?
Oh, absolutely. But I've been in automotive so long, I think everything is a negotiation. I'm that person. I negotiate everything from the rooter to the tutor. So absolutely. A lot of the time as Black women, we tend to sell ourselves short, but we have a fear of, if I ask for more, they're going to pass me over. So let me be okay with whatever they offer me. And then I'll just work real hard and maybe they'll give me a raise, or maybe they'll see the effort that I put in. Absolutely not. That is something that needs to be put on the table and be transparent from the beginning. And I do think that it's not just about pay, but also time. Not everybody's trigger, is, oh, you're going to be paid more. For some people, they just want more time off, more time with their family, PTO, things of that nature. So all of that needs to be negotiated and from the beginning, and be transparent about it.
And yeah, and to Donna's point, having that coach will help with that, right? And so becoming equipped and prepared in advance to be able to feel confident to have those conversations. Bobbi, do you have any anecdotal experiences about how you may have not been offered the best compensation? And I don't know if this was earlier in your career or, in recent years. And how did you address that?
The way I deal with pay disparity is to um, try and sweeten the deal in other ways. Um, I'm very much into professional development and education. I always try and make sure that that's a part of any situation that I'm in. If not outright sponsoring or paying for, that I will get some benefit from it. Another added thing is, as well, is it always helps to have a mentor, which is also a part of networking. It's almost everything in this life is about relationships, and um, more often than not, we know someone somewhere that is connected. And I mean, I'm talking beyond the virtual and online stuff. I'm talking IRL. And those networking opportunities can lead um, to laying a foundation that can help you negotiate through the life of your career.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that, you looked for other things that were important for you as part of the negotiations. And I recall actually Reverend Soares, who is the founder of the D-Free movement. I remember him saying a long time ago that you have to be really clear about what your professional goals are and really clear about what you want to get out of your job. And sometimes that may be the financial goal. So you really negotiate hard for the money. Other times it may be for skill development, right? So you want to gain certain skills. Other times it may be for just experience and people who you may meet and being in that environment. So as long as you are very clear what you want to get out of it, then coming to the table confident to negotiate that. So I love that. I love that. Any other examples of how maybe early in your career, particularly, I found that for me, actually, I had shared this before. I had applied for a position. They offered me a position, but I felt like I was overqualified for it, right? And I said, I have this experience, which should have me at the senior level opposed to the AE level, the account executive level at the time. And, the woman who I dealt with, she was in HR. She was a Latino woman. And so she said, okay, well, if you're as good as you say you are, then in 90 days, we'll promote you to the next position. So for me, this was one of my first positions in my career, right? So I wasn't as savvy, but at least I did feel confident enough to say, that's not quite right, and was able to earn the position. So I remember that.
Well, I mean, I think it's also very important to know that there's no harm and definitely no shame in walking away. I I know my limits. I'm pretty clear about what I'm expecting when I go into things, and I mean, even as a younger person, I was that way. The biggest thing is maintaining the confidence to ask for what you want, and better yet, what you're worth, because those two things can be very different. And if there is no meeting of the minds, have a good day. you know, and that has sometimes even worked in my favor. Maybe not in that moment, but eventually, because I stuck to my guns about my self-worth. And, folk come around to appreciate that.
Right. Mekey, I saw you making a lot of expressions down there. I know you're burning to say something.
Well, it just reminds me of something that, that we all learn playing dominoes. All money ain't good money, right? So sometimes I've learned the opposite lesson early on in my career. Like, why am I getting paid, management level salary for what should not be a management level position? And then I later learned, oh, this is that, I'm crazy cost. And so now I learned to be discerning about that as well. So it's almost a red flag to me if it's too much, right? So I was chuckling at that because yes, you do have to know when to hold them, and you definitely have to know when to fold them. And it's, like a handshake and thank you so much for your time. But, I do apologize, but I don't think we're going to be able to come to an agreement here. And that's perfectly okay. And the more empowering it is for a young woman to understand that early on in her career, I think that really does help you later, because now it's, I'm able to duck and dodge like the Matrix. So I'm not even going there. But thank you. Thank you so much. I'm very flattered, but no, thank you.
Mhm. And so, what are the tools that you think that women can gain right now to help them have these discussions? Now more than ever, people are aware. It's not at the level that it needs to be, but it's part of more discussions. And so this is the time more than ever, if someone's developing and growing in their career, to be able to have these discussions and perhaps people be a little receptive to talking about it.
I think you do need to find that circle. I love what Bobbi said about finding a mentor. I've spoken with Auntie Donna Brown, right? And just having someone with her experience and background, as well as Kelly. So, with these two ladies, you have, corporate and entrepreneur, right? And what I would like to tell the young ladies, it does not necessarily have to be the same sector or the same industry. Corporate is corporate, as anyone will attest to you, right? When you get to those levels, they don't really operate that differently. If you can find someone in your sector, that's amazing. Find someone that you trust. And I will say this, right? I'll be the bad guy and say it. You can't always disclose these things to certain people, because we know that haterade is available for everyone. So I would try to find a trusted mentor and practice. If you're not comfortable advocating for yourself, get your cell phone, get your mirror, tell yourself when you get the email with the offer letter, don't respond immediately, sit on it, right? My advice is I negotiate from the top down. Whatever that offer is, it doesn't matter how beautiful it is, right? I go up and then we meet in the middle. Even that little extra 5 or 6, 3%, you can just put that in your 401k. So see that as a bonus. Absolutely, right? I wish I had learned that early in my career. Speak with someone and never accept the first offer.
Kelly, so I know you are in an industry that's not typically associated with women in leadership. And how is that with you working in the automotive industry, in terms of leadership, opportunity, growth?
In my side of the industry, because the industry has many, many sides and facets to it. On the retail side, whenever you want to raise, the answer is the same, whether you're Black, white, Spanish, yellow, it doesn't even matter, or male or female. The answer is always the same. You want to raise, sell more cars. You're in control of your own paycheck because it's commission, right? However, once you reach management, things change, it shifts, right? And then it's, hey, listen, it's still a commission aspect to it, but then the salary is definitely there. If you are in a automotive, let's say automotive company that is a dealer partner, right? Which is like a vendor. They have C-suite executives. One of my favorite human beings, Carrie Wise, was former senior vice president of a company called TrueCar. You may have heard of it. Now she is senior vice president, COO, pardon, of AutoFi. I had no clue that she existed. For 10 years, for over a decade, I had no clue she even existed. There are C-suite level executives that are Black women all through automotive, from Subaru to Nissan, Mitsubishi, like all of it. And I had no clue they existed. And so I would say within my industry, because it's dominantly white male oriented, we need to do a better job of making ourselves more well-known to new women coming into the industry. And so there are organizations that do that, right? But again, the mentoring, the coaching is definitely going to be key, because you're going to need an advocate. You're going to need somebody who can advocate for you when you are not in the room. That is going to be clutch in an industry like automotive. I hate to say that it's a dog eat dog world out here, but it's come a long way from where it was. It still has a long way to go. I would suggest anybody who's looking to get into automotive, do it, right? Try it, because you never know. You may love it. However, get yourself aligned with someone who has your best interests at heart and wants to see you grow and succeed. And then lastly, I'll end it with this. From my side of the industry now, because as Mekey said, I'm now in entrepreneurship and I own my own automotive consulting firm. So for me now, I would say any young ladies looking to maybe venture out and on their own, right? Go ahead and do so. Take the shot. Still get the mentor and the coach, but understand that you need to know your data. Understand your numbers so that you can justify your pricing, especially as a consultant, because you never want somebody to say, oh, well, I can get this from somebody else. Yeah, you could, but this is why I'm better. This is why my price is my price. You can go with the lower price, but you won't be getting the best. So that's what my advice would be to anybody coming into automotive, or maybe looking to branch upward within automotive.
You know, you bring up a good issue. So to compensate for the pay gap, you know, starting your own either side hustle or going fully out into entrepreneurship is definitely an option. And so I guess, Mekey, from your perspective as a financial wealth management advisor, what are some things that you suggest about people who want to supplement their income or even go fully out on their own?
So the one thing that I would say, right, and I start out these conversations so much with budget, plan. A lot of times we don't take advantage of side hustles because they stay side hustles only in a cash to service. I recommend that someone, look at a business entity, get registered with the state, set it up formally so you can take advantage of tax deductions, right? You can also take advantage of contributing to retirement accounts. Sometimes additional income should be used for investing purposes for later. So I really encourage everyone to set it up as formally structured as you can. Even if it's a sole proprietor, keep track of receipts, of mileage, right? There's a lot of tax deductions. The IRS code, I tell people, is not black or white, it's green. So the more that you can get affiliated with the IRS, personally and professionally, it's definitely going to suit you. And maybe you can't contribute to that 401k, but you have a small business and it allows you to contribute to a Roth IRA or some other retirement plans. So absolutely, right? Just spend a little bit extra, and you don't want to get a foul of Uncle Sam if they did an audit, and always try to get a separate bank account, at least if you can, to keep the two buckets clean.
Right. And so,
go ahead.
I was going to say, so you've done both. You've made the transition. So how was that for you? Was it an easy transition from having your career, as a legal counsel to doing?
So I would, now? Yeah. I would say easy is kind of relative. I think that for my 34 years of working, I have lived in an uncomfortable space, period. I don't look for comfort in my workspace. I look for that at home. And so being uncomfortable, I guess I've gotten comfortable being uncomfortable. In early years, it was in banking. Then I went to law school. I became in-house counsel. Then I went to work for the federal government. I was in-house counsel for the United States government. Then I moved over to investigations. And now I'm actually working as I'm retired federal government. Yay, got my pension. And I am able to maneuver into spaces that I want to be in, which includes board of directors, advisory boards. I'm an intellectual property attorney. I am a professor of entrepreneurship. I'm a professor of business law. So I'm kind of multi-hyphenated. So what I would say is this: get comfortable being uncomfortable, and do not put yourself in a hole, if you will. Okay, you have many attributes in this day and age, and I, I was a few minutes late, just coming back from a big economic summit, and one of the things that we were talking about is how quickly we are accelerating with knowledge. You know that from AI, right? So for you to just kind of pinhole yourself as one thing, you're at more risk of losing your value than if you embrace all of the traits that God gave you. You don't have to say, I'm going to be this or that or the other. You just show up and be you. And in closing, for me, and I love when Mekey called me Auntie, because I say my name is Attorney Donna Brown, also known as Auntie Donna Brown, my trademark name. I'm that auntie in intellectual property law you never knew you even needed, because I want you to build your business and build a legacy that you can pass on from generation to generation. Right. And so that's what you need to do. You don't have and I'm not necessarily a side hustle. I think that whatever you do as a multi-hyphenated person, do it to your best, build your brand, get your ownership rights, whether it's a song or creation or whatever, and then keep it pushing. So be comfortable being uncomfortable and embrace all of your talent and then own it. That's my suggestion.
And so can you speak specifically to like what that uncomfortable feeling was about? Was it about being the only African-American woman in the room? Was it being in industries where women weren't represented? What was so uncomfortable in all those positions?
That's a good question. So I just came from a meeting with SCORE. I also volunteer with SCORE Los Angeles, and we have, 30,000 people we serve. At that meeting, most of the people were older than me. Nobody looked like me, right? And so for some people, their comfort is based on identifying familiar characteristics in other people. I have unlearned that habit. I think we all need to unlearn some habits. So as a kid, I went to a school with 500 people, and me and my brother were the only ones who were Black, who weren't white. And so I think that color is just only one differentiator. Language is different. Culture is different. If you really think about this, and I've given this a lot of thought with this pay gap between women and men and women of other races, a lot of it has to do with your ability to get comfortable with other people or their ability to get comfortable with you.
Yes.
So if you get the interview, you're qualified. And that's one thing I've learned in the C-suite and the board of directors suite and the leadership space. I don't feel like I need to prove myself to anyone. I feel like I grace people with my time now. So if you get the interview, you're qualified. Now the question is, do you want to spend a whole lot of time with that person, whether they're Black or white? And that's a matter of whether you're comfortable. So comfortable is relative. And I think because at an early age, my comfort with race it wasn't there and never was there, that I've just stayed comfortable being uncomfortable in a myriad of ways.
Mm-hmm.
So Bobbi, so that was a great point. Are there any other principles that have served you well in terms of to your success and moving upward in your career?
Yeah, I mean, Donna opened up a few things. I mean, just I've never been a one-note song. And which is why I'm a firm believer of professional development and maintaining, an open mind to learning. I started out in journalism, working pretty much, I guess, from the age of 15. I've always been in some form of media. And although I had dreams of working in legacy media, and being with a newspaper, which I did finally accomplish. I actually worked in traditional radio for a number of years as a news correspondent, and eventually became a producer behind the scenes, making sure that the on-air talent sounded great. I considered everything I did to be a lesson for what would eventually happen for me. I pretty much have always incorporated whatever I'm doing into my next steps. I remember early on when I was a radio news reporter that people were poo-pooing me writing for what were e-zines and, you know, alternative newspapers and underground publications. They were like, "You're on the radio. Radio is great." Radio news is all but dead. There may be a radio news station in every major market in America, but long gone are the days where every radio station has a news person on staff. Those are jobs that are long gone. I instead chose to continue to be engaged in other forms of media, also building my skills as a photographer and filmmaker, just always building my skills. Eventually, after radio, I did, and actually, I didn't wait for radio to die. I left radio for a number of reasons, exactly what we're talking about. Pay disparity, um, uh, uh, all kinds of wild sexual politics that I refuse to play those games, and you know, maintain my sense of professional um, uh, behavior at all times. So I segued into print, but then I also went into the early internet when they were, you know, launching in the mid 90s, the first wave of online news. I was a part of that when people couldn't even conceive what the @ sign meant. They couldn't even they couldn't even understand what an internet was. Um, so I had to explain to people what I was doing. They was like, "But that doesn't exist." Thus virtual. But I always insisted on that was my personal thing. I want to know more. And it gave me the tools I needed to be prepared for when the world finally caught up with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been a multi hyphenate my whole career by choice. And now for most people in any of these positions, it's by demand. You have to have a myriad of media skills. The most average job right now requires you to have at least some social media acumen and know how to engage in that form. It has again, just being open to learning and being ahead of the curve has always given me that opportunity to, more importantly, increase the bottom line of the value of my work.
Mm-hmm.
So it got to a point in my career that when you spoke to me about whatever projects you wanted me to be engaged on or possibly hiring me, you're getting a whole lot for the money. So what are we going to do? And the other big thing, and I think Donna kind of touched upon this as well. You know, if you understand the value of your worth, you're very careful about what you give away. And I never had a problem with giving it away, but it was only in very specific portions. In other words, there was one magazine that was published by a friend of mine that I would write for free. That was it. He was it. Now, mind you, it was a dynamic, it was a buzz magazine. Everybody was reading it. So my name got out there, which was the benefit of me giving it to him. But no one else got that deal. And the other thing is that, and this really came from my mentor, a media force in this market, the late Reggie Bryant, who always insisted that that you ask for more, no matter what they say. You know, so let's just say they say $75. Okay. Now we're talking about like for little stupid little articles, $75 for a 100-word article. And I'm like, well, you know, actually the market value is $1 a word. So, you know, now I'm giving them a chance to do their math, but if they don't get it, I'm going to say, you know, so that's $125. I'll help their math in my benefit, which is now helping me, which will also begin the negotiation. Now, honestly, at this point, I have an absolute bottom line to there's a price for everything that I know that the door only opens at this rate. And I have the friend rate, shall we say, which rarely ever comes up, but maybe. But I always attach an aggravation fee. And that aggravation fee is the money that I may be scared to ask for. But when I reflect on the problems that I may have on the other side, I have to go back and do additional edits. I have to talk to this person a little more than I'd like to. I have to do extra, it's nonsense stuff that may come up. I include my aggravation fee, and it helps me increase my bottom line. And again, you know, it adds to my worth.
And I know,
And,
Bobbi,
you know, and you can call it anything you want. You can call it your tax. You can call it whatever. Yeah. My thing for it is aggravation fee, because if I have an aggravation fee built in, I am not so testy when I get those late night calls. I remember, you know, I covered this. That's what my aggravation fee will make me smile at 11 o'clock at night. But it won't necessarily make me smile at 1 o'clock in the morning. So there is a limit to that too.
So Bobbi, you were dropping a lot of gems in your remarks. I want to go back to something you alluded to, and that is looking at the evolution of your industry, right? And so you talked about being ahead of the curve, and making sure that you were positioned to grow and develop in your industry. And so I think that's even more crucial now more than ever, particularly when I think, Donna, you brought up AI and things are just changing, and being able to see where you still fit in and how you still add value, right? And so I think particularly Mekey, and for you, Kelly, in your industries and in your area of expertise, what would you say to someone who's mid-career level and things are evolving and changing? How have you, Kelly, stayed relevant? And then Mekey, I would say, how do you put in, I guess, some financial protection for dealing with those changes? I think you're on mute, Kelly.
I was like, man, I'm really hoping Mekey will go first. No, I'm kidding. So I would say, because that's literally exactly what I did, right? I've been in automotive 13 years, and then I decided, well, 11 years when I decided to go off on my own. So I leveraged social media. So I think you can't be, it's not that you can't, it would behoove us to be on or ahead of the curve and not behind it. It's harder to play catch up. It is way harder to play catch up because you got to run a lot faster. You ever watch track and field? And you watch this person who maybe misstepped and they have to run twice as hard to catch up with everybody else. And then there's the person who hit it as soon as the gun went off and they're off to the races. You want to be that person, right? You want to be the person who you heard the gun cock and you heard the boom and you were off. When it comes to things like AI, chat GPT, social media, social selling, we're now we've always been in a global economy. However, I think now as Black women, we're accepting and understanding more that our brand, our niche, our talents, whatever it is that we have, is not just here in America, and other people can benefit from our knowledge, our wherewithal, our services, products globally. And so I would say, in my experience, I leveraged, me personally, I leveraged social media. I leveraged multiple platforms. I didn't niche to one. I ventured off to multiple different platforms. And then I had to understand also that different people, right, especially in other countries, they pay differently. So in my business, I had to make sure that I could accept payments, right, in multiple different ways. It couldn't just be a one-stop shop. This is the only way I can accept payment, so on and so forth, right? Because then I would be cutting off my nose to spite my face. I would be limiting whom could have access and who could pay for that access, right? And I didn't want to do that. But also I learned that I had to increase my pricing with my value increasing. So 2 years ago, I didn't have any books, but now I have 2 books on Amazon. So my value increased, also my price increases, right? For my consultation services or for my concierge services, anything like that. Same thing, 2 years ago, I wasn't viral on multiple platforms. So if I want to teach somebody about going viral, now my value has increased because more people have had access to me. But also what Donna and Ms. Booker explained, guess what? Education is key. So every conference I go to, every interview that I do with somebody who's an automotive giant that definitely is way smarter than me, right? It increases my value. And so I think as Black women, we need to learn that the more we increase our value, the more we increase our reach, is the more we also need to increase our prices. Yesterday's price is not today's price, and be okay with that.
So again, I always go back to basics, right? Sometimes in my field, with financial planning, it can kind of be seen as the person that ruins the party. But everyone is not going to be J.K. Rowling that, comes with this great idea. And then all of a sudden you wake up and you're a billionaire, right? So it's plan, especially as women, especially as Black women. A lot of us tend to be single moms, right? Single parents. Even the divorce rate is high. So I always counsel women, especially, we tend not to invest. We tend not to save. A current trend right now is he needs to pay all the bills. Well, sis, what are you doing with that money? Because if you need to pivot, you need that little cushion, right? So I just tell people to stick to the basics. If you think that you are going to make a jump, right? You need to make sure that not only your landing is secure, but your foundation from which you're leaping is secure. I was able to position myself to take a year off to really put into being an entrepreneur, right? And that was absolutely a financial sacrifice, not just for me, but for my household. So, what I do like to tell ladies, especially, is because a lot of us do not have that buffer. We're making higher wages, but that's still at a disparity, which means that there's not as many dollars for us to carve to sit aside, right? There's not as many dollars for us to bolster up our retirement accounts or other accounts. So, what I would tell them is make sure that you're okay if you take a leap and it doesn't pan out financially, especially for those considering entrepreneurship. There are huge costs associated with that. So I would encourage them to get in as good a financial position as they can. And if you think that you are going to pivot, make sure that you're in a place to where maybe you don't have to go to that 401k, because if you're under 59 and a half, of course, that is a huge penalty. So I would just encourage people, plan, position yourself and your dollars, right? Start cutting those costs now if you think that you're going to make a leap, right? And it's not necessarily something that you're sure of where you're going to land. I've talked a lot of girlfriends out of just saying, well, I have this great plan. I'm just going to go ahead and quit. And I'm like, I don't know about that, right? Do you have at least 6 months of cost to cover, right? That great proposal, that great plan, right? Because from the paper to the pen, there's a lot that goes on there. So I don't want people to make a leap and then end up actually falling backwards because they don't have that financial cushion, especially now when we see that the economy is still really not settled, right? There's a lot of uncertainty going on globally. So I'm always going to be the one that's like the numbers person and say just a little bit more, proceed with caution. Go and take over the world, of course, but make sure that path to home is always secure.
Mm-hmm. And I hear you. You're not saying you can't start a business, but you should plan for it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Businesses are expensive.
Yes. So this is great. There's just so much good advice for anyone, regardless of what level of what level they are in their career. Everything from making sure that you identify a mentor or a sponsor within your organization, professional development, being okay with being uncomfortable, being able to communicate with different people, working on your confidence so that you can be in the room and know your value and to deliver your value, right? And as someone pointed out, you got the interview, you were hired, so you are qualified. So this is just really great. I appreciate this. Are there any last thoughts that you want to share before we conclude our conversation?
I actually have one. I
Yeah.
like that. That was an excellent recap because I think that's very, very accurate. And a lot of this to me boils down to mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, your mindset. So when you asked me before, what does it mean to be comfortable being uncomfortable? Your mindset needs to change. Bobbi, you hit the nail on the head. Media didn't just kind of outpace you or whatever. You left media. And I think that is really important. I think that as women, and especially as Black women, sometimes we are so used to hustling and grinding that we don't give ourselves grace. Okay. And that grace is to recognize when you deserve more. Again, God made you to be a multi-hyphenate person, and you have all these gifts and talents. The world is evolving at a rapid clip. Okay. You should feel really comfortable making sure that you get with someone who can help you monetize those talents. The mentor, definitely somebody who helps you, whether in entrepreneurship or in business. Sponsor, by the way, is different than mentorship. The sponsor is somebody within the corporations, Nicole knows, right? Who's helping advocating strategically for you. By the way, I just came back from a conference, $1 billion financial multi hundreds of billions of dollars represented there for presidents, boards of CEOs, and we took personality tests. My number one characteristic trait, rather, is strategic planning. So I just encourage all of you to plan. And number two is learning. And even though I know a lot, I know I always can learn more. So I encourage everybody to just really your mindset, get your mind right. You're not going to have one job anymore. You don't know how many.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the average wealthy millionaire probably has 7 sources of income. And this is my last point. I said when I came on, I had the good fortune in the 60s that I'm not the first generation of educated people. Okay. But get this, my kids who are 19 and 25, both at elite schools, they might be the last generation of educated kids, because you need to think time. Oh, you can never trade your time for enough money to make you truly wealthy, because you only have so much time in a day, even if you're making $1,000 an hour, right? And the jobs that the kids are learning, or people are learning in college right now, and you're paying $70,000 to make $40,000, but you can get AI and talk to Mekey and do some investments, or talk to Kelly and get your own hustle, or me, and get your own entrepreneurship on, and you will make your 6 figures. So mindset is everything. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to have one job or one thing that you want to do. Be open. And when you are open, you will be so surprised of what flows to you. Thanks.
All right. Mm-hmm.
Well, I would say in my closing remarks, just a couple of brief things. Number one, unfortunately, and I'm usually the person who's the bearer of bad news sometimes, call it being direct. Unfortunately, there's a lot of Black women that go into particular positions with a chip on their shoulder, or a proverbial chip on their shoulder, right? And that may be the product of preconceived notions by our counterparts, right? They think, oh, well, if I hire her, she's going to be difficult to work with. Or if I hire her, if she gets upset, she's going to have, an attitude, and she's going to be rolling her neck. And they have these preconceived notions. I would say don't feed into those preconceived notions. Do your best to be Michelle Obama, okay? Rise above. Do not feed into the negativity. But also the other thing that I would definitely piggyback on, I hate that term, but it's the best fitting in this sentence. What Mekey said, 1,000% have a plan. I wish I was smart enough to have done that. I am a very impulsive person, so I would say know yourself. Okay, definitely know yourself, know who you are. I happened to just quit my dealership job. That was very lucrative, and I was in management. It was great. And I said, you know what? I could probably do this on my own. I don't need this dealership. I quit. Bye. And my late husband, who was alive at the time, was like, why are you home on a Saturday at 12? What's going on? I said, so I did a thing. And so I didn't talk with my spouse. Okay, I just did it. Not smart. Don't be me. Now, by the grace of God, amen, I definitely walk by faith and not by sight. And it just so happened that I have a very, very, very strong support system. I'm proud to say that Mekey Gabriel is a part of that support system. When my husband passed away, she made sure that she's like, girl, I know you're not feeling like cooking, so these kids got to eat. I'm delivering stuff to your house. I will never forget as long as I live. So I have to give her a major shout out. But absolutely, a strong family support system, because whether you're a C-suite executive or whether you're an entrepreneur, there are long hours and you're going to need that support system when you get home. You're going to need that ability to decompress with people that are not going to judge you or tell you you shouldn't be doing it, with people who are going to edify you and pour into you. So absolutely. And the last thing is, I would say, try to have a Dory mindset. You ever watch Finding Nemo? You know how Dory can't remember anything that happened past 30 seconds ago? When we hold on to stuff, it burdens us. Have a Dory mindset. Let it go. Just forget about it. Move forward, push on. You'll get to where you're looking to go faster with that type of a Dory mindset. And remember, facts over feelings. Operate in the facts, not the feelings. And so that's my 2 cents. Thank you so much, Nicole, for the opportunity.
Yeah.
You, Donna, and everybody else. Mekey, I love you. Peace and blessings.
Love you too. And I love Mekey and Bobbi and everyone.
Did you have any final thoughts, Mekey, or?
I did, right? And I'll get them together. I'll defer to Miss Bobbi for 2 seconds. There is a, because I have to live in the refined hood because I have 3 young Black boys over 6 foot tall. So I swear to goodness, every time I'm doing something, here comes the fire truck. I don't know if y'all can hear it, but I hear it.
You're good.
What I'll say is that, well, now they're gone, so I can speak. What I'll say is that, right, I'll leave you, the young ladies and everyone else, with words that my mother taught me when I first learned my career. She said, sometimes you have to sell yourself this mantra, and it helped me through many a day. I don't necessarily love my job, because some days we won't, right? We spend so much time there, such a huge part of us. There is a burden, right? I absolutely loved my career. At times I would feel guilty. I'm taking time away from my husband. I'm taking time away from my children, right? It's not a Mary Poppins situation. Sometimes you can do it all, but there were some days that I certainly couldn't. And during those times, right, especially when it wasn't so happy and cheerful, what I would tell myself sometimes is, I love my job because I love my family. I love my job because I love my truck. I love my job because I really love my Coach bags. I love my job because I love going on vacation with my girlfriends, because some days you're going to have a lot of days like that, right? Sometimes you do have to sacrifice a little to get to that point. Me in my younger days, I was very defensive to what Kelly was saying, right? It was like, have you read my resume? Do you know and now I'm just like, hey, everything's golden, because I'm already thinking of that trip I had planned with my girlfriends on the weekend. Maybe we're going to the Bahamas, or maybe we're just gonna sit and chill, right? There's a privilege that comes with that, and I understand that. And I'll leave you with something else that also helped me also get through those times where sometimes you're just really looking like, do I really want to be in this space anymore? My mother always taught me, not everyone can go to college. And if you do go to college, not everyone can be a rocket scientist. Someone always has to clean the toilets. If that is your job in that moment to do whatever that task is, right, do it to the best of your honor, always giving glory and honor to God. Because sometimes, a lot of times, knowing that my ethics, me showing up, right, was that compensation in a sense, right? Because we know, ask for what you want, but we know the reality is, unfortunately, that we are paid less. However, right, that did get me through a lot. Like, I am not doing this job for you, right? This is me, and I bring my best because I am the best, despite of what number you may put there. So if you're early on in your career, you can't get those numbers, it is perfectly okay, right? I could always rest in that I am the best and I have done my best, right? And I would pat myself on the back at times. So you got this, ladies, right? We're here. We're all here. Listen to this when you need some more encouragement. But absolutely, what a great group. And I got some gems too. I'm going to watch this myself and take some notes.
This is excellent. I don't know if Bobbi's still here. Are you still here, Bobbi? I think we may have lost her. I think she had said she has low battery life. So, but this is all related, right? We touched on a lot of topics, but it's all connected. One, if you're in corporate, how to stay there, right? You can't close the wealth gap if you're not working, right? And so it's having the longevity in your career. And then also just having the mindset of building wealth. We talked about having multiple income streams, right? And then just the mental fortitude that you need to live this thing called life, right? And so this was excellent. So thank you so much. There were just so many tips, very rich conversation that I know our community will value. And we just so appreciate you taking the time out to share with us today. Thank you very much.